Hello. My name's Tім МакЛафлін, and I work for a small New York-based production company called MediaStorm, where I'm an editor and producer of documentary films. I say New York, but we actually work all across the country. My boss, our executive producer and founder, Brian Storm, he lives in California right now. Half of our web team lives in Florida. The rest of us live in between Brooklyn and New Jersey. We're a totally digital company. We fluctuated between 5 and 14 employees at any one time in our 10-year history, but we're currently at 7 full-time staff members. I say this so that you understand that we are not a large media institution. We aren't financially backed by a Fortune 500 company. We certainly don't have everything figured out. But as a team, we have 17 Emmy nominations and 4 Emmy wins, 6 Webby Awards, 3 World Press Awards, 2 Alfred I. DuPont Columbia University Awards, and the Edward R. Murrow Award. We've worked with and produced films for CNN, The Wall Street Journal, National Geographic Magazine, the United Nations Foundation, Save the Children, Starbucks, and the Pulitzer Center. Here's a breakdown of who we make our films for, if you're interested. This year is our 10th year anniversary as a business that makes its money from producing documentaries that we care about specifically for the web. We've managed to make an impact with our films and stay in business during one of the most tumultuous periods of time in modern media, where all of us are trying to understand the best use of the internet and all the tools that are created because of it. We don't have answers for everyone, and we certainly don't have all the answers for ourselves. But we have learned some things along the way, and I'd like to share some of those lessons with you today. MediaStorm began as a bit of a mystery in 2005. It was an interesting year to start, too. It was the year that YouTube was launched, and many newspapers were on the precipice of a decline in revenue, some as much as 50% over the course of the following 10 years. The 4 founding members of MediaStorm edited 6 films and posted them to this website without much of an explanation. It was meant to be a mystery. The films were edited in Brian's second bedroom. Eric Mayerson, our most senior producer, when hired, was told that he, for sure, would be paid for that week. Beyond that was uncertain. Despite the sort of quintessential startup quality of this moment, there was an important decision made about how those original films would be created. The stories would be done when they could no longer be made better by those working on it. While working efficiently was and remains important to us, there is no story that cannot be made better with time. Essentially, this is an argument for quality as opposed to quantity. MediaStorm publishes infrequently and not often. We work for months at a time on a single film, sometimes longer. The focus on quality over quantity is foundational to our company. It allows us to tell stories that others might not. In 2007, we were approached about doing a film on children born to rape during the 1994 Rwandan genocide. We were told that no one would want to watch the film because it wasn't timely. It had been 14 years by the time that film had reached us. And no one would want to watch a 15-minute film on such a difficult subject, specifically on the web. This was a story that demanded careful consideration at every turn. It needed time, and time can be expensive. But we decided to take on the film, and intended consequences was the result.
ndamubwirwa n'aka iyo ndebye ifoto nkunda kuyireba iyo numva ntanezerewe igihe njyamo nkumva nanze abantu sinshaka no kugira icyo tuvugana
film detailed the lives of a handful of the 20,000 children conceived from rape and the mothers who cared for them. It is an honest, difficult, and emotional account, and not the type of video you might expect an internet audience to respond to. The internet, we are often told, is a place where videos of talking dogs garner millions of views. The internet is a place where it's more important to post lots of videos than it is to post good ones. It has been gospel that video for media organizations was simultaneously an expensive luxury and the savior of journalism through its ability to generate clicks and drive profit, valuable only in mass quantities, and best when short and punchy. This is not our experience. Our audience values depth in reporting and production, and it doesn't seem to care about duration. And I think we're beginning to see the cracks in that conventional thinking. Joshua Topolsky, co-founder of Vox Media and The Verge, wrote in his recently widely shared manifesto on the subject, "The media industry now largely thinks its only working business model is to reach as many people as possible and sell, usually programmatically but sometimes not, as many advertisements against that audience as it can. The truth is that the best and most important things the media, specifically the news media, has ever made were not made to reach the most people. They were made to reach the right people. Because human beings exist, and we are not content consumption machines. What will save the media industry, or at least the part worth saving, is when we start making real things for people again, instead of programming for algorithms or new things." Intended Consequences was never created to be viral. It wasn't created to generate clicks and views. It was created because it was an important story that a lot of people hadn't heard. And it was created with care, consideration, and lots of love. And people found it. The right people found it. Hulu found it and placed it as an ad. Starbucks found it and became a huge contributor to Foundation Rwanda. They found the organization that was set up by the photographer to help pay for the education of the children that he photographed. These folks, they found it and they shared it and they were inspired by it. And to date, that video has over 1 million views. It has a completion rate of 65%. 65% of the people that start that film finish it. It won a DuPont Award for Journalism, an Emmy Award, a Webby, and the Award of Excellence from Pictures of the Year International. Quality in the time of excess is a line drawn in the sand. It's a bet on dividends rather than immediate payoffs. There's a reason that Talking Dog video does so well. It's one of the funniest videos you'll see all day. The internet rewards the best of things. Even if that is mindless or madness, it will reward the best examples of that mindlessness or madness. But many of those things the internet audience rewards will be forgotten about tomorrow. We want our films to be the best about a particular subject, hoping that the right people might find it and appreciate it. And we're going to produce those films to a high standard, knowing that it will extend the life of those films on the web. Time to think, time to report, and time to produce are the only ways to do that. So quality is foundational to our company. It's our divining rod. From that, we've created tools and techniques to support and enhance those films, and most importantly, to get those films in front of the right people. From our launch, we've created ways for our viewers to share our projects, and we've tried to make it easy for them to do so. Here's an early attempt by MediaStorm. What you're looking at are poster frames that we used. They were typically photographs from the photographers that we worked with, and then they were designed by our staff. They were freely available for download and would include links back to our site where the video could be seen. They were just a simple way of providing something visually sophisticated when someone wanted to share our projects. The poster frames were made in a variety of shapes and sizes, each one corresponding to guidelines that would make them appropriate for blogs or social media, etc. Once you've captured someone's attention with your video, the second most important moment to capture is the moment they've finished. If they've made it to the end, they're probably going to want to act in some way, and it's important to give them that opportunity in the most efficient way possible, because that moment can be powerful to you, to your company, or for your subjects. Take, for instance, the example of Rape of a Nation by Marcus Bleasdale. a story about the complicated relationship between the West's natural appetite for natural resources like gold and diamonds, and the treatment of those people responsible for extracting those resources in the Democratic Republic of Congo. A jeweler named Shay Downey of Oak Glen, California, saw our video and shared it with a global group of small jewelry shop owners. In terms of using video and sharing to find the right people, this is exactly what we mean. We went a step further in 2010. That year, we launched our revamped video player. After finishing one of our films, viewers were immediately given the opportunity to share what they had just watched. If you email that link, the recipient gets a nicely designed email, complete with descriptions and instructions on how to watch the film. You can also share it to all the relevant social media outlets. Most importantly, MediaStorm gave viewers the ability to embed our videos on any website, personal or professional. From someone's blog to Time magazine, anyone could post our content on their site for free. This is Columbia J School's website that used it. This is the Asia Society, which is a think tank based in New York. And this is just someone's blog spot that was interested in this film. In an online media landscape that still clung to the idea of syndication, allowing our films to be presented fully and for free on websites of major media outlets was a gamble. We were betting on the sharing economy, that making a quality film easy to share would get it in front of the right people. Those who could engage the issues we cover and affect change, those who saw our work and decided to hire us to tell their own story. We made it easy for the right people to see our work. Importantly, we were also attempting to grow our brand. Each embed became a smaller version of our larger site, containing our branding, our writing, our sharing capabilities, all within a package hosted on someone else's website, which was more likely than not giving her readers an endorsement of that content. We wanted people to see our name, our content, and trust that it would be worthwhile. What better way to do that than to share our work, our labor of love, with as many people as possible on the websites of individuals who were endorsing our work. We needed their audience to identify our brand with quality visual storytelling, and the embed helped us do that. Lydia Polgreen, editorial director of the New York Times Global Edition, comes to a similar conclusion in regards to the New York Times when she recently wrote, "Our identity as a news organization is high-quality journalism you cannot find anywhere else. Companies have a word for this identity. It is called your brand. Brand has become a bit of a sneering, dirty word in certain media circles, but we ignore it at our own peril, that fact that we too are a brand. We need to answer this question. Why should a news consumer lean forward to consume and pay for your journalism when so much is available for less money or worse, for free? We need to get much better at telling our own story. We journalists hope the work speaks for itself, but in a cacophonous world where stories whiz by on Twitter and Facebook, we need to tell our readers that we are special and that our stories have value." The idea that work has value, financial value, is a controversial notion on the web. The web has made the idea of free content its standard. In 2012, MediaStorm launched two projects, A Shadow Remains and Rite of Passage, in collaboration with photographers Phil Toledano and Maggie Stieber. The projects were quintessential MediaStorm, the stories of a daughter and son struggling with the realities of their aging parents and dealing with the implications and repercussions of their deaths. There is nothing newsworthy about this story. There's nothing timely about this story. But there is something universally human about both of them. Their value as pieces of media will continue as long as sons and daughters deal with the issues of aging parents. And this is a key component of our editorial strategy. Stories that aren't connected to a specific moment in time have a longer shelf life and the ability to be shareable beyond the year they were created.
Parents seem permanent. They've known you There's a baby, there's a 10-year-old, there's a teenager. And they love you without reservation. They have been there forever, and they're going to be there forever. Maybe a little bit softer with the erosion of the wind, but always there. And when they die, it seems inconceivable. It just seems ridiculous. It seems stupid.
Thank you guys. That means a lot to me, actually. These were the projects that we launched Paper Story with. Projects that had been paid for by clients continued to be free, but films we funded and financed would be placed behind a paywall. Soon after, we launched the ability to subscribe to our site for $23.95, which is a totally weird number, but that's what we went with, giving the viewer the ability to support our storytelling and get full access to our archive and any new projects we might release. For sure, we have taken a hit on viewership for those projects. But we think it's important for our audience to understand that quality takes time, effort, and money, and that by contributing what is often less than the cost of a cup of coffee, they help make it possible for us to continue making quality work. We have to convince the web audience of this, because content creators cannot continue to work on the hope of exposure. Content creators should be compensated, but the only way to do that is to give the audience a quality product worth paying for. First, we put out great work, then we developed an audience and a brand, then we charged for our content, hoping that our audience would support the films and our production of them. So once you've developed an audience, how do you maintain and grow that audience? Let me tell you about our experience with education and why we find it such a crucial part of our business strategy. Our first storytelling workshop was in 2008. That's me on the bottom left. Was MediaStorm's first intern. The idea was to be selective in who we chose to work with, so our first batch of students included a Pulitzer Prize winner, the global head of multimedia at Reuters, and an AP photographer. Together we found, shot, and edited 2 stories during a 7-day workshop. Our storytelling workshops maintain much of this same structure today, and they have been a valuable tool to help us better learn our own craft, and perhaps more importantly, create relationships with talented storytellers of whom we might one day want to work. I'm an example of that, having been an intern during that first workshop. I came back to the company as an editor and producer in 2010. And Jillian Laub, an extremely talented photographer, is another. After helping to shoot and produce this lovely story of a struggling single mom called Take Care, Jillian shifted gears and began a project that would end up becoming the recently HBO-purchased film Southern Rights. During that same workshop, another student, Laura Varma, who worked for Starbucks in their corporate office, went back to Seattle and found a way for our 2 companies to work together. That began a relationship which has continued to today. In one workshop, we developed a relationship with an award-winning director and a company valued at $100 billion. It's also forced us to document and strategically think about the stories that we tell and how we tell them. And with the caliber of students that we often have, we are constantly forced to rethink that strategy in the hopes of getting better. We also have a methodology workshop where we spend a week detailing how our company runs and how others might start something like it for themselves. This too has been an important part of honing how and why we run the business, but also an effective way to build relationships and ultimately find work for ourselves. We ended up doing projects for 2 people in this picture. But for every person that's able to attend one of our workshops, there are thousands of others in our audience who can't. On Facebook, we have 26,588 followers. On Twitter, we have 27,000. So how do you build a personal relationship with that part of your audience? Again, education has been an important tool for outreach for us. Our blog is full of short tutorials written by the creative team. We've created a field guide as an iBook available on iTunes. And in 2010, we released the first of a series of educational videos which anyone can subscribe to for a fee. Those videos detail our workflow and methodology for how we develop and create stories, and they've been adopted in many universities across the United States. This educational outreach has helped us develop and maintain a relationship with our audience, and it has proven an important tool for improving our own work, finding new clients, and bringing in passive income. And it's easy to be tempted by the next big thing, the next distribution or viewing tool that will generate revenue and allow us to do what we want to do most. Maybe it's VR, maybe it's augmented reality, maybe it's Facebook's instant articles, subtitles, or Periscope, maybe it's Snapchat or Slack, maybe. But the core lesson that we've learned over the last 10 years is that none of it really matters unless you're delivering a unique, thoughtful, and compelling piece of journalism or art to an audience that can trust your name. Everything else is about making sure that thing you've cared for, labored over, reported on, and created is viewed in the way your audience wants to receive it. And that they trust what you do in the future will maintain or exceed the standards you've set for yourself. None of it matters without quality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. And are there any questions from the audience, apart from those that we already have on Slido? Отже, запитання, okay, the question is, how do you choose the topics for your pieces? As in this range, it is not feasible to say whether this story is more important or more interesting. So what are the criteria? Yeah.
So the question was about how we choose our stories. This is a bit of a mixed bag. We get our stories delivered to us in a lot of ways. The way that we initially started working on was that people would bring us stories that they had been working on for a long period of time, and then we were sort of tasked with creating a narrative out of the content that they had been that they had given to us. We are more so now than ever acting as a publication on our own, where we're choosing the stories that we're personally interested in as producers. We do not typically go for stories that are of the moment, so you won't see a lot of MediaStorm stories that are about the news of the day, for instance. What you'll see were stories that will have the same impact the day it's published as 10 years in the future. And that's a wide variety of topics, but typically you'll see a lot of social justice issues on our site, and we do a lot of collaboration with folks who are doing work in that vein.
Дякую. Запитання з аудиторії є? Немає? Yes. The question from the lady there.
Can you translate? Can you translate? Okay, thank you.
Здравствуйте, Наталья Курдюкова, Харьков, проект «Накипело». Вопрос. У вас потрясающее и действительно очень впечатляющее видео, но такое видео достаточно сложно снимать, потому что на нем очень сложно зарабатывать. Как вы заработали первые деньги? Вот с чего вы стартовали?
So we have several different avenues to make money from the company. I had a slide up earlier which showed where we get our revenue from. Most of our revenue comes from work that we do for NGOs and nonprofits. We make money. We make films for them that are, based on the work that we're doing. One of my favorite examples is the Mines Advisory Group, which they remove mines from post-conflict nations, and we went with their deminers, found one deminer that actually during the war, and it was in Angola, during that particular conflict, put the mines in the ground and was now working with MAG to take those mines out of the ground. So that's just an indication of the sort of story that we try to tell when we work with NGOs. We also are just hired for our production services. So our editors, our producers are hired to sort of bring a story along in its process to the end, to where it's a finished film. And then we do have corporate clients as well. So, but typically we sort of fold our corporate clients into our own way of thinking. So the work that we do, for instance, for Starbucks is, I'll give you an example. They had an initiative where they wanted to hire more American workers to build coffee mugs for their stores. So they started this initiative in a small town in Ohio. We went to Ohio. We found someone who had been given a job because of this initiative, told their story, and what was created was a documentary about a subject that Starbucks was interested in, but not necessarily an ad for them.
Pavlo asks, how much does a good video cost?
How much does a good video cost? Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, I can tell you that I'm working on a feature film right now. This will give you some indication. I'm working on a feature film right now that we've been working on for the course of about a year and a half right now. I would say all told, we've probably spent $150,000 to $200,000 on just that portion, like just that, the making of the video in the field, and then the initial editing services. And we're now shopping that video around now. It's enormously expensive. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It can be cheaper. But we're at a point where we can hire we can hire composers to do our music, and we can hire motion graphics, editors to create the motion graphics for those films, and those experts rightfully charge a good amount of money, and we get what we pay for. We get a lot of quality out of them, but it can be expensive. That being said, I have seen some amazing work done on the dime, done for obviously much cheaper than that. That number shouldn't dissuade you from attempting to make a great film. It's possible without that number.
Ще запитання? Немає. Перед тим, як бурхливо поаплодувати Тіму, увага, перед тим, є ще двоє людей, які заслуговують на наші оплески. Ми їх не бачимо, але ті, хто користуються послугами перекладу, ті їх чують. Це Ольга Тишковець і Тетяна Дитина. Оплески їм. And thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
And enjoy your meal.